So good morning, everybody. So this is our course Global Marketing, and this is our fourth chapter that we will be talking about today. And this fourth chapter is about social and cultural environment. So today we will talk about some social and cultural issues. So by the way, you can just click on the link and the link will directly send you to or will allow you to participate in the meeting. So I will just let me send you the meeting ID and password. Well, I cannot find the password. Just log in using the link. Okay, let's continue. Please use the link itself because typing the username and password takes some time. So just click on the Zoom URL and the Zoom URL will directly take you to the meeting. Okay, so let's talk about the social and cultural environment that affects global marketing. Okay, so let's start with the objectives of this chapter. So my pen is not working, sorry for that. Then let's talk about the objectives of this chapter. Then the first objective is to define culture and identify the various expressions and manifestations of culture that can impact a marketing strategy. So culture can be manifested, or culture can be shown in the language, in the music, and the food. Okay. So, for example, one can learn somebody's or others' culture very well through learning their language. So, language is one of the ways culture is expressed. Okay. So the other objective is to compare and contrast the key aspects of high and low context culture. So countries differ from one another by their high or low level culture. Okay, so excuse me. Excuse me for the interruption. So the third objective is to identify and briefly explain the major dimensions of Hofstede's social value typology. So there are about 5 dimensions. So we'll talk about this. You have heard of this individualistic, collectivist, high power distance, low power distance. Okay, so we'll talk about these 5 dimensions. And the fourth objective is to explain how the self-reference criterion can affect. So excuse me for 1 minute. So this is not working.
What not working?
I don't know why. It's not working.
Huh.
So maybe
Can I use this?
it's okay. Or let me just use
Just play.
let me how about if I use
No, can use this one in here.
really? Last time I was using like this, for example.
The old one can use
This one cannot use?
Yeah. So
I cannot share like this?
Can share, but you cannot write.
Oh, same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is
Yeah, this one.
This one?
Yeah.
4?
Okay. Let's use the first one. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. If happens something like this, just turn off the icon node and
Start again?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm really sorry for the inconvenience. So our Wacom has a little problem. Now it's fixed. So let's continue with our objective discussion. So the fourth objective we have for this chapter is to explain how the self-reference criterion can affect decision making at global companies, and provide step-by-step example of a company adapting to conditions in a global market. And the fifth objective is to analyze the components of diffusion theory and its applicability to global marketing. And six is to explain the marketing implications of social and cultural environments around the globe. So, as you know, the world culture has similarities and differences. For example, the Asian part of the continent, or the Asian part of the world, has a little bit similar characteristics and similar culture, and the Western has similarities, and the North and South America also. And there are also differences, okay? So when we are engaging in global marketing, it's very essential to understand people's culture, okay? Our customers' culture, or our trading partners' culture. So global marketers, there are two major tasks of global marketers. So the first one is to study and understand the cultures of countries in which they are doing business. Okay, so we have to know the cultures of these countries. So some countries have this shared cultural characteristics, and for example, if you take, for example, Korea, and some countries close to Korea might share similar cultures. Okay, so let's say, for example, China and Japan share some similar cultures. So for a marketer, it is important to take advantage of this shared culture, because we cannot address each country's cultural values in our marketing. So sometimes we can prepare our marketing strategy to fit some regions with shared cultural values. Okay, so the task of global marketer is to study and understand the cultures of countries in which they will be doing business, and to understand how an unconscious reference to their own cultural values or self-reference criterion may influence their perception of the market. Okay, and the other very important task that global marketers should focus on is to incorporate this understanding into the marketing planning process. So our objective here is to understand, to study, and to know the culture, and to prepare the strategies and the marketing plans that will have to be adapted according to the cultures of these countries. Okay, so we have to shape our strategies and our marketing plans in order to address or in order to reach these customers or trading partners in other parts of the world. So this actually needs a tough mind and a very open mind global marketer or a CEO in global business. Okay, so let's talk about the society culture and global consumer culture. So why cultural factors challenge global marketers is that because many of these cultural values are hidden. Okay? That's why it's very difficult, or it is a challenge for global marketers. Some cultural values are not like clear for the global marketers to see and to reflect on them. That's why it's a challenge for global marketing. So culture is a way of living. Okay, so it is some kind of learned behavior that is built up by a group of human beings that are transmitted from one generation to the other. So this could help a very good definition for what a culture is. Okay, so as I've said, culture is a learned behavior and it's a way of living, and it passes from generation to generation. So culture has both these conscious and unconscious values, ideas, attitudes, and symbols. Some of this could be tangible or could be sensible, and some are just intangible and not sensible. Okay. So culture is acted out in social institutions. It could be in schools or in family, in religion, in government. So this, for example, school or government or religion, okay? So you can call them social institutions. So these are the institutions that shape the culture of a country, okay? So these institutions reinforce cultural norms, and this culture is both physical, it could be expressed in clothing and tools, and sometimes non-physical, it could be religion, attitude, belief, and values. For example, value is a higher level of attitude and belief. Okay, so sometimes religion, I mean, culture could be physically expressed through the way people clothes, I mean, the way they wear clothes, and through tools, the for example, utensils that they use at their home, or it could be non-physical through their religion or attitude or beliefs. Okay, so Hofstede, most of you might be familiar with Hofstede because he is a very well-known anthropologist. So he has defined culture as culture is the collective programming of the mind that distinguishes the members of one category of people from those of another. Okay, so even though it is a programming or a mindset that distinguishes some members of people from the other, it doesn't necessarily mean that every country has a unique culture or different culture from other countries. There are also shared cultures among people, as I've said. Just like we say this is a Western culture, this is Asian culture, this is African culture, we mean that this is a shared culture among so many people, right? So a nation, an ethnic group, a gender group, or an organization or a family may be considered this category. Okay. So these social institutions, as we have said, could be family, could be education, could be religion, could be business, could be government, okay? And they reinforce this cultural norms. So cultural norms are learned here, or you learn this cultural values in one of these institutions. So for us, when we're born, we learn some values from our family. When we go to school, we learn from education. We learn from religion, we learn from government interactions, we learn from business, okay? So our culture is composed of all these influences from family, education, religion, government, and business, okay? So, and we can broadly categorize culture as material and non-material, okay? So material could be, for example, the clothing, the tools, the decorative art, the body adornment, the homes could show, okay, the culture of some people in a specific country, okay? So the way the homes are designed by itself can tell the culture of the people in the country, okay? And there are abstract cultures like religion, perceptions, attitude, beliefs, and values. So these are not something that you feel, or they are not physical, okay? They are not tangible, but they are called abstract cultures. They are religions, perceptions, attitudes, okay? And cultural universals. So cultural universals are something that is exercised by all the people throughout the world, okay? So athletics is a universal culture, okay? Cooking is universal culture. Courtship is universal. Dancing, ethics, etiquette, fasting, and food taboos, language, and more, they're universal uh, uh, cultures. So, and that one important thing that we will talk about in later slides is, as a global marketer, um, uh, we should understand that culture by itself is converging, okay? Converging in a sense, the Western culture is also experienced in Asian countries, for example. And some Asian cultures are experienced in Western countries. So sometimes based on the age group or based on the race, you might have global customers. Customers could also be global, okay? Global customer in a sense, for example, the teenagers. If you come to Korea, or if you go to the US, or if you go to Africa, teenagers mostly have some similar norms, similar attitudes, similar beliefs, right? For example, the music taste they have, the clothing style, okay? So these are something that makes them similar throughout the world. So this is what we call the convergence of culture, okay? Convergence means coming into one, okay? So let's continue with society, culture, and global customer cultures. So global customer cultures are emerging, as I have said, and this emergence of global customer is because of the internet and satellite TV, okay? So this technology has greatly contributed for the emergence of global consumers, okay? And as I've said, global consumers mean people or individuals who share meaningful sets of consumption-related symbols. For example, the pop culture, the coffee culture, the fast food culture, the credit card culture, soccer culture. Okay, for example, there are so many fans of, for example, Manchester or Tottenham or Arsenal in Korea, in Western, in America, in Africa. So they share some common values, right? And for example, you can take this fast food culture. fast food was primarily taken as a culture of Western countries, okay? Because Western countries usually are adapted to this take and go, or this on the way or on the go eating cultures or eating habits, okay? So, but now, if you go to India, if you come to Korea, to China, the fast food culture is expanding to other parts of the world, okay? So this primarily the product, this is the product of technological advancement and the world being interconnected. And the globalization also has contributed to the convergence of this culture and creation of global customers, okay? So more of this will be described in our 7th chapter, okay? So let's talk about attitudes, beliefs, and values. Okay. So if we accept this Hofstede's notion of culture, so Hofstede has said that culture is the collective programming of mind in the definition, right? So if we accept that, then we have to talk about attitudes, beliefs, and values. Okay. So attitude is a learned tendency to respond in a consistent way to a given object or entity, or it could be cluster of interrelated beliefs, okay? And a belief is an organized pattern of knowledge that an individual holds to be true about the world, okay? So that's our perception of the world that is called a belief. And there is a value. So a value is, these two attitudes and beliefs are closely related to values, okay? So values are enduring belief or feeling that the specific mode of conduct is personally or socially preferable to another mode of conduct. So the values represent the deepest level of culture, and they are present in the majority of the members of the particular culture. Okay, so value is the deepest level of culture, and it is very closely related to attitude and beliefs. Okay, and there are also subcultures. So there are these smaller groups of people within their own shared attitudes, beliefs, and values. For example, you have heard of vegetarians. So this doesn't belong to the whole people living in that country, but some group of people within that country could be vegetarian, so or could adopt to the values or beliefs or attitudes of being vegetarian. So this could be categorized as a subculture. Okay, so let's, for example, see the Japanese. Okay, how or what are attitudes, beliefs, and values, for example. One thing that could be expressed as a value is Japanese, they strive for strive to achieve cooperation among themselves, consensus among themselves, and self-denial. So this is how it is explained by these anthropologists. So the Japanese, they strive to achieve cooperation, and they reach on consensus. They have self-denial and harmony. So this is a mode of conduct they have, and this is their value. Okay, and the Japanese, they think that they are unique people. So this, we can say, is a belief that the Japanese have, that they are unique from other parts of the world. Okay, and the other is, for example, the Japanese think that this West, the Western part of the world is an important source of fashion. Okay, so we can say this is their attitude. Okay, so we can explain these three things. Okay, the value is, for example, they are they strive for cooperation. Their consciousness, their self-denial could be identified as their values. Okay, and them thinking they are unique could be considered as their belief. Okay, and the other is the Japanese think that the Western is an important source of fashion. Fashion could be in clothes or other things. So this we can say is the attitude they have. Okay, the same way you can explain Korea. What is the attitude of Koreans? What, for example, we can say that Koreans believe in hard work. That is a value. Okay, and we can say Koreans believe that they are unique from other Asians. So that could be a belief. Or we can say Koreans think this and that about other people. That could be attitude. Okay, so this culture could be expressed, or culture could be manifested through attitudes, beliefs, and values also. Okay, so and the other thing is religion. So religion is a very important source of society's beliefs, attitudes, and values. Okay, so you can talk from religion, you can guess their attitudes, beliefs, and values. Okay, so you can say this religion is an important source of belief, attitude, and values. Okay, so the world's major religion includes Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, and are an important. These are an important, the major religions in the world, and they are important source of beliefs, attitudes, and values. So, for example, as a global marketer, when you are planning to open a business in a country, um, for example, in Europe, then you have to know what major religion is exercised in these countries. Okay, is it an Islam country? Is it majority Christian? Is it Buddhism? It is because for example, the eating habits or the food the people eat could be determined by the religion. Okay, as you know, for example, in Islam, you don't eat pork. Okay, and in Hinduism, they don't eat meat. Okay, or in Christianity, the same way they might not eat pork. Okay, in the same thing in Judaism. So you have to know their eating culture, and also you have to consider the religion while, for example, advertising your products. Okay, so you should not, for example, advertise your product in a way it disrespects the religion of these people in other parts of the world. Okay, so as a global marketer, so before this, I think in chapter 1 or 2, we've said that global marketers are the best examples for think globally, act locally, right? So we have to know the major religion in other countries. Okay, and from the religion we can also easily understand the beliefs, the attitudes, and the values. Okay, so religious tenets, practices, holidays, and history impact global marketing activities. Okay, so you remember the Charlie Hebdo case in Paris, that the gunman who fired at the Paris office of Charlie Hebdo because of the cartoon picture that was out on newspaper by Charlie Hebdo. So anyways, we have to be we have to be very careful not to offend or not to go against the religion of the people. Okay. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay. So just take a break for 5 minutes and I will be back.